we have seen a downgrade tendency in the bilateral relations over the last couple of years already, and there was a number of disputes, including in the realm of historical memory wars between Czechia and Russia. But there was also another sort of major incident called the Vrbetice affair, when there were suspicions that one Russian agent was actually sent to assassinate several Czech politicians, which turned out to be finally a fake case. It was not a real affair, but this was a sort of a play in between two Russian diplomats that were both finally kicked out of the country. So you see that there was a number of affairs already before Vrbetice, before April this year. But to be honest, the most recent revelations of the GRU involvement in the blowing up of the ammunition depots on the Czech territory has been the major and the most severe and serious affair. And obviously, if we only add to this, and we don't forget that Czechia was, as the only European country, unlike Ukraine, unlike Poland, unlike the Baltic states or the UK, were named as a sort of enemy nation by the Russian Federation, then we compose a sort of a picture that is just very telling. So I would say that this is really the lowest point in the bilateral relations. We see attempts from parts of the political landscape, including the President Miloš Zeman or some parts of the foreign policy establishment, to reach out to Russia. But I have to say that because of these very objective, very clearly stated lines, red lines, I would say, these are only attempts, and we have not moved anywhere too far from here. The investigation into the affair has taken a very long time. You might recall that these affairs, these incidents, these acts of espionage, as I would call them, took place already in autumn of 2014. So it took 7 years to really come up with a solid piece of evidence. For several years, we were waiting for more solid information, because the whole area was just, really dangerous, and it had to be decontaminated by experts. So that only happened in autumn last year, when another round of the investigation actually took place and speeded up. So since then, there were already, and after. Another parallel story was obviously the 2018 the Skripal poisoning case, in which several of the same GRU agents actually took place, and this was another very important moment for the Czech investigation team to actually come up with more maybe concrete evidence and some interesting new facts, and But anyway, it was only at the beginning of this year when we had rock solid proof that the GRU agents from the Russian side were involved. And then that was only a matter of time and timing, honestly, to basically reveal the case and point finger the Russian way. Since then, there was quite some development as well related to the investigation. You might have heard about the fact that the Czech president Miloš Zeman has questioned the official narrative that there is only one line of the story that was always pursued by the General Prosecutor's Office. He questioned possibly that this might be also a sort of organic matter, not involving the Russian presence at all. He also said that there might be other investigation versions of the story. So here, obviously, he undermined the Czech official narrative also in the international scene, which very much resonated in the Russian Federation itself, as you can imagine. So here there was a sort of bumpy road after the revelation itself, and there was a whole wave of disinformation that was actually targeted against the Czech society, the Czech citizens, and they were actually bombarded by different versions of the story, how much Czechia just acted like this on behalf of the United States, that we are just puppets of the big brother from the West, and how much we are just loyal to them because the affair more or less happened at the same time when the United States imposed additional sanctions for human rights violations against the Kremlin leadership. So then, obviously, this was also very much played out. The discussion about Russia really resonated in the months of April, May, and June, when also the diplomatic escalation took place, and many Russian diplomats and members of the diplomatic staff were actually kicked out from the country. That was by the end of May. But then I felt that over the summer and after the summer, everybody was just focusing on the election campaign. Obviously, there was a completely different focus, and Russia was not playing such a prominent role, even if it was still resonating somehow in the political programs of political parties and in the public discussions. But the foreign policy related agenda was not so prominent, and definitely not as prominent as we would like it to have. We dedicated some time as part of one of our projects, which is called mapping influence of foreign powers, namely Russia and China in the V4 countries. And we were before the Czech parliamentary elections. We were mapping how much Russia, China, but also a wider situation of defense and security and the resilience of society to counter foreign and domestic pressures was actually reflected in the political program of Czech parties and movements. That was quite interesting, because we would see two tendencies. So you would see that the pro-democratic part of the political arena, especially the two coalitions that finally won the vote, they were very much vocal about the malign activities of Russia, about disinformation that it is spreading, the way Russian companies should be excluded from the nuclear tender on the nuclear power station build-up in the Czech Republic, but also basically vocal about investing more in the transatlantic alliances, and also in the resilience, so investing in the army, promoting the civic education and critical thinking in the society to counter disinformation, but also work very actively with civil society that has been very vocal about the role of Russia and China that is played in the Czech society. So here I would say that this was very clear and very strong normative discourse that we have seen in the programs. The ruling Ano party of Andrej Babiš was closely there as well, but it was not so much vocal about the role of Russia, even if they, for example, mentioned at one point in their political program that we don't want Vrbetice anymore. So investing in protection of civilian and military critical infrastructure. So they were advocating in favor of this, and also very much speaking about additional resources that will be going to the defense capabilities of the Czech army, and so on and so forth. So here, that was one part of the political landscape. But there was another one coming from the extreme forces that actually really spinned the narrative, counter-Western narrative, be that both against the EU, but also against NATO. So that we have seen as well. And that was a rhetoric that was not there 4 years ago or 8 years ago about, Czechzit, about, Czechia leaving the NATO. That was very much advocated by the Communist Party in the first case against the European Union, and proposing Czechzit, that was the far-right party of Tomio Okamura. So we have seen really increased rhetoric that was also caused by increased competition at the far-right part of the political landscape. So here we have seen this kind of stepped up rhetoric, but also these parties, for example, advocating for including Russia in the nuclear tender, or also advocating against imposing sanctions against any third parties that would relate to both Russia and China, among others. So here you could see that the rhetoric, for example, like, in the Russia direction was really much more increased, and the anti-Western was really, really high, and very well reflected in the political programs. All these extreme forces that, in the case of Communist Party, didn't even cross the 5% threshold, and in the case of Tomio Okamura, also meant some kind of underperforming because of the competition with other far-right parties.